Are you leading your teams with a winning mindset or a whiner mindset? To find out what I mean, tune into this week's episode. I'm joined by Ryan Millar, who is the founder of a consulting firm called Gold Medal Mindset. Gold Medal Mindset focuses on change management, decision-making excellence, and ownership and leadership development. Ryan has a background in professional volleyball, competing in 3 Olympic Games and winning a gold medal in 2008. In this episode, we will discuss how Ryan prepared himself mentally to compete in the 3 Olympic Games and how having a vision and strategy led him to gold. Welcome to the No Hesitations podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin, with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant owners to develop their leaders and scale their businesses without wasting time and energy so they can achieve work-life balance and make more money. You can now engage with me on the show and share topics you'd like to hear about, leadership lessons you want to learn, and any feedback that you have. Simply click the link at the top of the show notes, and I'll give you a shout out on a future episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting. Ryan, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Kristen. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. This is very exciting. I was just saying, as we are recording right now, the opening ceremonies are on. So this is just beautiful timing, and really appreciate you taking some time to have a conversation. I reached out to you on LinkedIn and said, hey, are you up for this? Let's meet. And just really honored to have a gold medalist on the show, and excited to share your story and how you've been able to take and transform your incredible, just high level championship world of sports into what you're doing for a living now in a company. So anyway, can't wait to jump in. Let's take us back to the early days, volleyball. How'd you get into volleyball, and take us through the progression of that career?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know how interesting of a story it is. I kind of grew up in the mecca of volleyball, which is Southern California. That's slowly not becoming the case anymore because the sport has just grown and grown over the years. It's fantastic to see the growth. But I grew up in Southern California, started playing when I was in middle school. At that point, I really didn't know anything about volleyball. I was playing basketball, much more into basketball at the time. I was also doing track, and I kind of knew that I wanted to be a 3-sport athlete. So my older brother had just started playing volleyball, and he's like, you should try out for volleyball. I'm like, all right. So that was, I would think I was 11 years old when I first started, and quickly realized how much I really started loving it. And it grew from there, going into high school, and then on to college, and then on to the U.S. national team, and playing professionally. And it was quite the journey. Volleyball has given me so much, just travel the world, so many cool experiences. I never thought that, obviously, when I was 11 years old, picking up the ball for the first time, that I was going to be able to have all these really cool experiences. But I'm sure glad that I did, because there quickly became a point where I recognized that I was much better at volleyball than I was at basketball or track. And so decided to dedicate my time and energy to getting better. And that's where it took me. So,
yeah. What was it about volleyball that drew you in?
You know, I often will tell people that I feel like I could argue the fact that volleyball is the ultimate team sport, because the way volleyball is you're constantly depending upon your teammates to help be successful. There's not one person that can dominate the game, because as soon as I touch the ball, then obviously someone else has to then touch the ball. I can't monopolize the play. And so I'm constantly depending upon my teammates to help us be successful. And so that part of it, just the team aspect of it, really, really got me. And I had a great coach early on in my playing days that really instilled a fire of competition and just the competitive nature of wanting to win and working hard. And I'm really fortunate that I had that, because, you know, those are lessons that I still use today. And I like the competitive aspect of it as well. I like the team aspect, the competitive aspect, and it just seemed like it was a really great kind of blend for me.
Say more about your coach. What was that style, and how did he really infuse that drive and competition in you?
Yeah, it's funny because when you're back then, you think of your coach as kind of this old crotchety guy.
Totally.
But actually, he was only in his I think he was like 26. So I'm like, now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, you were super young. And it was actually it was fortuitous because he would practice with us every day. And I just thought that was normal, but of course that's not normal. But he was also a very good volleyball player, and I don't think I'd ever met anybody that was as competitive as this guy. And he was just infectious with his competitive nature and hated to lose, and really instilled this competitive kind of fire within all of us. And we just kind of, culture reflects the leaders, right? Yeah. And he was the leader of the team as being the head coach. And the culture of that team was we were just going to work hard and have fun. And the outcome was going to be the outcome. But one thing that we were going to do in the gym is we were going to compete. And that was all a direct reflection of his leadership. So he had a major impact on me. He's a great coach. His name's Mike Bird. Unfortunately, right now he's dealing with cancer. And so it's funny how life kind of takes its toll on people. And if I always said that as soon as I heard that he had cancer, I'm like, well, there's one person that's going to beat cancer. It's this guy, just because of just this fire and love for life that he had, and this competitive nature that he had. So
that's beautiful. Did he talk to you guys about the Olympics and going bigger and doing great things, or was it just about that season?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. It was about what we were doing in the gym. I mean, where I grew up in Southern California, I kind of grew up in the high desert, which is like northeastern of Los Angeles. And, it's not known to be a big volleyball community. And we just got lucky that we had a lot of really good players at the right time. And so the thought of like going on and even playing in college or going on and playing on the Olympic team was just so far outside of what we were focusing on. I really didn't think about volleyball as a profession or becoming a professional volleyball player or even an Olympian probably until my sophomore or so year of college, when my skills really started to develop and I was, player of the year in college and getting some notoriety from my play. Then I was like, man, I'm actually kind of good. I could probably do this continuing on. And the rest is kind of history, of course.
Yeah, I love it. So you win player of the year, you start having these Olympic dreams. Yeah. Did you have a path to go, okay, I know exactly what I need to do to get there, or what happened?
Again, not really. I'm young and kind of naive, and I love the term ignorance is bliss, because you don't really know what to expect. And so when I graduated college, we just won the national championship. I was, player of the year, and I knew I was going to try. The challenging thing at that point was in 1999 was my last year of college and playing college volleyball, and the Olympics were in 2000. So again, I kind of go to this notion of ignorance is bliss, because trying to graduate, going directly from college and trying to get on the Olympic team and actually make a roster to go to the Olympics in a very, very short amount of time is not easy to do. Really, really difficult, because I would be taking a spot of somebody that had most likely been on the team for 8, 9, 10 plus years already. Maybe that person had already gone to multiple Olympics. But I wasn't really thinking that way. I was just thinking, I'm just going to go out here. I'm going to try to play as hard as I can, do what I do. And, if I make the team, great. And luckily enough, obviously, I made the team and made that roster in Sydney in 2000 for the Olympics.
Incredible. So 2000 was your first Olympic Games.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I mean, you're with a whole new team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Whole new team. I'd had about 9-10 months or so of like training with them. So, I was pretty established part of the team at that point, but, it was a new experience. Again, I'm kind of young. I think I was 21, maybe early 22 when the games happened. And you mentioned that the opening ceremonies are happening right now as we speak. I go back to that first Olympics and how excited I was for the opening ceremonies in Sydney. I can still remember vividly in my mind going into the stadium, and in Sydney, there's just this, we went into this massive stadium. I think it was like 120,000 people, and you could just feel the energy from the crowd, and just, you know, representing the United States, and everybody's so excited, and it's just a really, really wonderful feeling. And so I think of those athletes that are going to Paris right now, and this is their first Olympic Games. I know what it feels like to kind of be a part of that, and what an amazing feeling it is. One thing a lot of people don't know about the opening ceremonies, though, is it's really taxing. It's not easy. You're on your feet a lot, especially when you're walking in. I mean, and you're kind of watching the rest of the show go on. The athletes are kind of in the infield, and they're all standing. You don't get to sit down. So you're on your feet for like 3-4 hours, just standing around, meeting people. It's really cool. But by the end of the night, you're pretty tired. So,
yeah. Did you go into that game or those games just with a goal of like, we're going gold, that's it? Or was it more just, I'm grateful to be here? What was your mindset like that first time?
Yeah, that first one, again, I just didn't really know what to expect. I mean, obviously I knew that I wanted to perform well, and we wanted to play well, and we were ranked 5th in the world. So it wasn't, we were kind of on the cusp of being medal favorites. And so winning a medal at those games would have been amazing. We just, unfortunately, we weren't ready at that point. We did not play very well. We underperformed quite a bit, dealing with some injuries and different things, but we just, bottom line, we didn't play very well. So it definitely stoked my fire to want to keep going and try to do better in the next Olympics. So
you knew after that first round, you were like, we're going to keep going. We're coming back 4 years later.
Yeah, I mean, right after the Olympics, when we performed so poorly, it was kind of like, ooh, like this wasn't super fun. Like maybe this isn't what I want to do, because I don't want to feel this again. But that quickly passed, and again, that competitive side of me just kind of kicked in, and I knew I was going to recommit and really focus on Athens. Was the next Olympic Games in 2004, Athens, Greece, and going there and trying to perform, and I mean, obviously do much better than we did in Sydney, and try to compete for a medal. So,
what did you do differently in preparation for Athens versus Sydney?
I was in a little bit of a different mindset because I was now kind of an established part of the team. This was going to be my second Olympic Games. There were some expectations around what it was going to be like, how I needed to show up a little bit differently, how I can train a little bit more efficiently. Some operational tweaks that we made that made it a little bit better. And I was a little bit older, and my game continued to evolve, and I became a better player, I think, at that point. I was playing in a really, really powerful professional league in Europe at that time, and had played there it was in Italy. I played in Italy for 7 years, and Italy is kind of known as having one of the best, if not the best, professional volleyball league in the world. And so I went and played there for a number of years, and really just kind of honed my skill and my craft. And I think I was just a better player at that point.
This is so interesting to me because I come from you and I have talked about restaurants, and I know you work with some restaurant clients. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but our world is instant gratification. You open the doors for a shift, you run around, you execute a bunch of things, you drop a plate of food in front of somebody, their eyes light up, they're satisfied. You end the shift, you get up the next day, and you keep going, right? You kind of, know how to prepare, you know how to plan, you know what to expect. But for you, it was 4 years in between the games. How do you stay focused and committed for 4 years and keep that like drive and passion? That's such a long time.
Yeah, it's a good way of thinking about it, because you also, again, I'm just going to leverage the time that we're in, because a lot of these athletes have gone through that exact same journey, right? And for a lot of them, which is all kind of a little bit mind blowing, is some of these athletes have like this one shot. Volleyball, you've got a couple matches and it progresses over the course of the Olympics, but like for weightlifters or rock climbers, or you know what I'm saying? They've got this one shot, and you've been preparing for 4 years. And if you got to perform in this one shot, or else you got to wait another 4 years. There are a lot of like milestones along the way. We call the 4 years a quad. So as the quad starts, you kind of got these building of really big events that go on in the volleyball calendar. So you start off by going and trying to compete in world championships, which is obviously a really big deal. And then the next year is World Cup. And there's a bunch of these larger tournaments called the VNL, Volleyball Nations League, where all the best teams in the world come together and you play these massive tournaments. And so there are these milestones that keep you engaged along the way and keep you progressing. But I mean, the end goal is always to perform and succeed at the Olympics. It's none of those events, you could combine all of those events together and it still wouldn't be as influential as winning a gold medal. So
yeah, I love
that's
that.
Always on the back of your mind.
Yeah, I love that you constantly have something to train for, plan for, but again, knowing that it's just a stepping stone to get you to your bigger goal. Hi, everybody. We're taking a quick break to offer you an exciting opportunity. If you're a restaurant owner or manager looking to enhance your leadership skills, I invite you to join my 12-day leadership challenge. In just 12 days, you'll receive a guided packet with actionable strategies to transform your leadership in less than 5 minutes a day. Join the challenge and the community and grab your copy at kristenmarvin.com/12 days. Now let's get back to the show.
Howdy, listener. Are you also a podcaster seeking to stand out in the crowded audio landscape? I'm here to help. L. Connor Voice, LLC offers top-tier audio engineering, meticulous content management, and more, all tailored to save you time and elevate your podcast to new heights of professionalism. With L. Connor Voice, you can focus on what you do best, creating captivating content, while I handle the rest. Say goodbye to hours spent tweaking audio levels and managing uploads. I ensure your podcast shines with polished sound quality and seamless delivery. Ready to take your podcast to the next level? Contact L. Connor Voice, LLC today and make producing your podcast as easy as hitting record. For more information, go to lconnorvoice.com. Links are in the episode notes.
So tell us what happened in Athens.
So we go into Athens and we win a few matches. We actually perform okay, a couple legendary matches, and we find ourselves competing for the bronze medal. And so we're in the bronze medal match, and unfortunately did not win. So we took the worst place that you can get at the Olympics, which is fourth, and because you're so close to being on the podium, but. Again, we just weren't quite ready yet. We needed a little bit of change in mindset, a little bit of change in culture, and to get over the hump. But we're getting better, and that was encouraging. And I was really, really excited for that second quad after Athens to go into Beijing in 2008. I was worked really hard during those 4 years to get myself into a place where I felt like I was playing the best volleyball of my career and helping my team the best way that I could. So
what was the mindset shift that needed to happen from 2004 to 2008? There were some interesting things that happened during those 4 years. First is we got a new coach, and a new coach brings new vision, new leadership, new strategies, and a different type of workplace culture, a different court culture, it's team culture. And so our coach was a very good friend of mine, actually. He had been my coach since my college days. And so we had a great working relationship. I respected him a lot. He's a great volleyball mind. And it was exactly what we needed at that time to figure out how to create the Rubik's Cube in the right way, because
These people are all trying to solve puzzles on how they can perform that little bit better that gets them from finishing fourth, now competing for gold medals, because the margin of error there is not very big. You know, you look at swimming, and oftentimes these races, the difference between medaling and coming in fourth or fifth is like 3, 4, 5, 600ths of a second sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do you get that 1, 2, 3% better? And he was just a master at being able to establish a vision of who we were and what we were going to do in Beijing, and put together the tactics and strategies that we needed to put in place to allow us to perform at the highest level when it counted and when we needed to. So
you felt
that
like
was kind of the biggest shift. That leadership shift was, I think, was the biggest shift.
Did you have a vision prior to that?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, we all kind of knew that like we wanted to win, but that's like, you know, that's kind of a lame vision, right? Anyone can have that vision, you know what I mean? But we needed to not only have the vision of being successful, but being able to put in practice some of the things that were going to enable us to be successful. Mm-hmm. And so I thought he was just really good at ensuring that when we were together in the gym, practicing and training, that we were maximizing that time, and that everything we were doing every day was kind of almost directly connected to that end goal. And so whatever we put in is eventually what we're going to get out. It's not about the end result. It's about the journey and how to get there. The end result's going to take care of itself. I use a quote a lot in my consulting work that I do now, that a Navy SEAL captain said, during times of pressure, we don't rise to the occasion. You know, you hear that term often, like somebody does something, extraordinary, and people are like, wow, they really rose to the occasion. This Navy SEAL captain said, no, we don't rise to the occasion. We sink to our level of training and preparation. That's why we train so hard as Navy SEALs. And I thought, what a fascinating way to think about executing under pressure. And these people that are going through the Olympics in Paris, there's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, like you talked about, they've been training for 4 years. Everyone in the world is watching. They've got the weight of their country on their shoulders. There's a lot of pressure. So you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to your level of training and preparation. And so we really went into those games in Beijing with some very well put together training and preparation aspects that I think totally shifted our ability to perform.
How, obviously you've got pressure you're putting on yourself, right? Coach is putting pressure on you. The team puts pressure on each other. How do you manage that? And when you're at the games, the pressure from your home country, the pressure from being on television and social media, how do you manage all of that external and internal pressure?
Yeah, we, being a part of the Olympic Committee, you have resources and access to different resources. And so we had a team psychologist, and he would talk to us about performance management and what it looked like to be able to, you hear about athletes kind of going into the zone and kind of blocking everything out. And I think back to those games in Beijing, and it's really what, now I can't speak for the other guys on the team, but I'm assuming it was similar. But for me, it was kind of like everything else was just kind of ancillary. And as a high functioning, really, high level professional athlete, we tend to be really good compartmentalizers, which can get us into trouble in other parts of our lives. But when it comes to playing sports, it's actually really beneficial to be able to effectively compartmentalize things, because if pressure has got its own bucket, and then performance has got its other bucket, and training has its own bucket, and dealing with my family has its own bucket, then none of those buckets are together and nothing's flowing over, right? Everything is kind of in its own place. And when I need to deal with it, I can go deal with it in that bucket. And so when you're in something like the Olympics, it's, you're kind of focused on that excellence bucket, right? Where it's like, okay, what do I have to do today to ensure that I'm showing up the best that I can? Because I recognize that these 2 weeks are only 2 weeks out of the next 4 years. And so I've really got to focus in on what I can do to really just focus on this bucket, and everything else just kind of fades out, and I'll take care of it when I need to take care of it, because right now I'm really focused on this.
How were you able to maintain that focus? Mentally, it sounds like you've got a really strong plan in place. And you and I talked about this last time, right? Restaurateurs are on their feet 10, 12 hours a day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. And they don't have that mental break when they go home because they're still in contact with the restaurant. But you are getting up and training every single day. How do you had sounds like you had the mental plan and were really mentally fit, but with the physicality of it, I mean, how did you get over the soreness and just the fatigue? How did you keep going every day?
Yeah, it's a good topic to touch on because it's one that I think a lot of people probably don't understand the depths of. When you're a professional athlete, achieving and performing is obviously massive, but being able to manage the physicality of your body, injury management, health management, all of that's a full-time job in itself. There were very few days where I would show up to practice and not have something nagging me, and being able to manage that pain and still be able to perform. And then after practice, go and take care of that pain and manage it in ways and strengthen it and stretch it and all those the different things that everybody knows how to manage pain. But that's a massive part of being a good athlete. There's the old adage of the best ability is availability. It's so true, because if you're constantly dealing with injuries, there's going to be someone that's in your same position who's probably almost as good as you are that might not be dealing with injuries that will want to take your spot. And so there's always this kind of in the back of your mind about like, okay, what am I going to do to ensure that I'm in a place where I can show up to practice, perform at my highest level? And that requires me to come in early and go into the training room and get therapy the way I need to, and be able to take care of my body after practice and jump in the ice bath. And all of those different things are really, really critical, and things that I think a lot of people that don't know what it looks like to be a part of that kind of the professional athlete community probably don't think too much about. Just injury management and physical management is just, it's like literally like another full-time job just with trying to perform.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you just had a tool for everything. If a certain part of your body was hurting, you knew exactly what to do. If you were down mentally, you knew exactly what to do. You had a routine down. You knew how to train, what to do before training, after training, in between training. It sounds like you were just super focused and had a ton of strategies to help you.
Yeah, very structured, obviously. And restaurants are the same way, right? They've got, they've got operations for everything, right? They've got SOPs. They've got standard operating procedures for everything. Like, here's how you make this dish. It's got this many, I think Chick-fil-A, right? You put 2 pickles on every sandwich. That's just what we do. And it's very similar to athletes as well. We all have our own nuances. It's like, no, I like to use this table when I'm getting my ankles taped. And you know what I mean? I like to use this ice bath and whatever. I like to use this cubby where I put my shoes after practice. Yeah. There's all that sort of stuff that happens, and it's just silly, but it's, totally. it's structure. That allows you, if you've got the structure, it allows you to build. Without it's like building a house on a shaky foundation, right? You got to set the foundation first, and then you can build the house based on the firm foundation. Absolutely.
So take us to Beijing, 2008, gold medal. What was that like?
Yeah, it was, winning the gold medal was, I'll tell people it's probably exactly how they think it is. It's just, there's just this extreme elation. There's a lot of relief as well. Validation, joy, happiness, all of those good adjectives that you can throw in there is exactly how you feel. For me, that being my 3rd Olympic Games and just kind of going through the other 2 and not having medaled, being able to go into Beijing and win the ultimate medal was just something that was completely life-changing. Obviously, it's opened up doors for me in my life. It continues to open doors today. And it was, it was nearly 20 years ago. So, yeah.
Did you know that was going to be your last game, or did you say, I'm going to win gold and that's it? What happened after that?
No, I actually went through another quad after Beijing. And tried to make the London Games as well. I was obviously on the back end of my career. I was getting older, of course. 4 Olympics is quite a bit. In fact, at that point, I would have been only one of 2 male indoor volleyball players to ever play in 4 Olympics. And so, obviously it's not an easy thing to do. And I had a pretty significant ankle injury. And when you're older, you don't recover the same way. And I just, my level had dropped too. And when I didn't make the team in London, I knew it was time for me to retire and try to move on to the next chapter of my life. And I don't have any regrets trying to make the games because, we were defending Olympic champions as well. So I had that on my mind. I thought we were still good. We were going to go into London competing for another medal. And I was all about trying to do it again. So.
Was that decision for you to walk away a tough one? In retrospect, it wasn't super tough. I could still remember driving back home because we were training in Southern California, is where the USA Volleyball Olympic training facility is. But I was actually had a house in Utah. And so when I got the news that I was not going to be making the team in London, I was driving back home, and it was at that point on that drive where I'm like, okay, I think it's time to hang it up. And I felt at peace with it pretty quickly. I mean, there was like the initial kind of like, oh no, like I think I can keep going, but I was confident that it was the right time at that point. So I was at peace with it. Did you have a plan of what you were going to do next, or how did that kind of come to be?
Not at all. That's another thing that's really challenging for athletes, is because when you're in it, you're kind of like, oh no, like I'm good. Like I'm going to play volleyball forever. And of course my body was like screaming that was not going to be the case. I had a general plan that I was going to be coaching volleyball. It's pretty, I had a coaching background already. I actually took a year off mid-career to go coach at my alma mater for college. And just to kind of I was burnt out a little bit, needed some time off, and went and coached and had a great time. And so I had this kind of desire to keep coaching volleyball and being in the sport, continue to be in the sport. And then maybe even a couple months after I retired, I ran into a good friend of mine who said that he had read that I had retired and he wanted to know what I was doing. And I said, I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of looking for my next chapter. I'm thinking going into coaching. He said, no, you should come talk to me about this consulting firm that he was working at, that he thought I would be a really good consultant. And totally outside the box idea. I had no consulting background. I wasn't an MBA. I didn't go to law school. I really had no business background. But I'm a quick learner, and it got a really interesting story, obviously, and that tended to translate really well into the consulting world. That's why you see a lot of athletes actually go into consulting, because consulting is really about telling effective stories, getting teams and leaders to move in the right direction, the right way. And, being a gold medalist obviously helps with credibility when you're working with business leaders, because they're all looking to deliver gold medal excellence as well. So they want to know how I did it and how you can apply some of those principles into their businesses. And so, but then I got into the consulting world, and I've been in the consulting world now for nearly 15 years. So
nice. And talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done with restaurants and some of those philosophies that you've been able to instill in them.
Yeah, that first consulting organization that I worked for was called Partners in Leadership. The founders of that firm wrote 3 New York Times bestselling books. The one that I think most people are kind of know about is a book called The Oz Principle. And it's about workplace accountability. And so when you think about the restaurant business, obviously workplace accountability is just massive. And so we also had a best-selling book on managing culture. And in essence, what we would do in our consulting work is we'd help organizations integrate and create cultures of accountability, which we would argue is the most effective culture an organization can establish. And so we worked with a lot of restaurant organizations. I did some work with Brinker International, who owns Chili's and Maggiano's, and some other, we did a lot of work with Domino's Pizza, obviously, and some of their things. And we did just a lot of different work with other large franchises of restaurant chains. And it was great work, instilling kind of these cultural principles and accountability principles into restaurants and locations, and how they can help not only develop their employees, but also how managing the culture of these individual locations and organizations actually impacts the customer and impacts eventually their business results. So,
Can you share some of those principles that you helped them implement?
Yeah, so we actually would create this set of what the firm would call cultural beliefs, which are kind of like guiding cultural principles, which would guide individual behaviors within these organizations like Chili's. So oftentimes you would even go to a Chili's, and if you look back into their prep kitchen, they would have all of their cultural beliefs, their guiding cultural principles listed. And then they would also have a recognition board, which they called their above the line recognition board, which was a process that we helped them institute, where they would just visually and verbally recognize people within their locations on when they were demonstrating those cultural behaviors. And it had a major impact on Chili's. I think when we first started working with them on their culture, their stock was like $12 a share, and eventually like even got up to like into the, I don't even remember how high it got up to, but it was up there pretty good. I'm curious what their stock is right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to look.
Check it out.
I'm going to look.
So it sounds like, it sounds like you helped them with those beliefs to create a vision of where they were going. And then again, some accountability there, but some setting some expectations, and then celebrating the wins and the achievements.
Yeah, absolutely. And we worked all the way from their executive team all the way down into the restaurants and locations themselves, instituting and integrating all of these principles down across their, I would assume, thousands of restaurants. So,
how long did that process take you?
We worked with them for a long time. The process of developing the cultural principles was relatively quickly, but obviously being able to integrate effectively across that many and the geographical locations and all of the restaurants, it obviously took a little while, but yeah, had a major impact.
Did they come to you and say, "Hey, our culture's broken. We need some systems here. We need some accountability," or was there some discovery that needed to happen in order to really identify what they needed?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I think initially I could see them kind of vetting our process as a process that could have, or at least the firm that I was with. I'm no longer with that firm, but at that time vetting that process to see if it was the right process for them. And when they made the decision to move forward, they went all in and really did a good job integrating the models and tools and methodology and common language, and like I said, had a really major impact on their ability to deliver not only greater profitability, but also guest experience measurements that they were looking at, and quality, and all the things that are top of the list when with restaurant managers and what they're tracking, and food waste, all of that good stuff.
Nice. So talk a little bit about gold medal mindset. Gold medal mindset. I will get it out.
You got it.
and your model.
Yeah. So, just based on a lot of the learning that I had from that organization and other consulting firms that I've been a part of, I wanted to kind of branch out and leverage the learnings that I had from my journey in the Olympics and how it can connect to workplace effectiveness, workplace environment, efficiency, teamwork, all of that good stuff. And have created a few different models and frameworks and tools that I also help organizations institute and implement, And it's been really, really rewarding to see some of the foundational aspects of what I know, what it takes to get to a gold medal type of performance, and how you can take the basics of those principles and put them into, very simple models and frameworks, and then institute those into a team or a business unit or an organization, and see how it can help flourish the employee base and the organizational results. It's been very rewarding.
What is the winner versus whiner model?
Yeah,
mindset?
that's a great model that I was able to put together in regard. So a lot of the work that I do is based on how to increase engagement and ownership. And there's a model called winner mode versus whiner mode, and it really defines what ownership truly is. And ownership is a choice that each one of us gets to make, right? When I'm confronted with a problem, I get to choose where I get to operate. I can either operate in winner mode, which you can probably identify with some of the characteristics of somebody who's choosing to operate in winner mode, right? They're looking for solutions, they're proactive, there's a sense of urgency, they're curious, asking questions, they're refusing to blame, and they feel powerful, right? Because they're controlling their own destiny and they're looking for ways to continue to progress and move forward. Or you can choose to operate in whiner mode, which is the antithesis of that, right? It's people, they're constantly looking for blame. They're looking for all the reasons why what we're proposing isn't going to work. They're complacent, they're lazy, right? They're a little bit kind of like, we'll get to that later. And oftentimes they feel powerless, right? There's all of these circumstances that are happening to them, and they're going to let those circumstances happen. And then they're going to throw up their hands and say, hey, there's nothing I can do. I'm powerless here in this situation. And, you can imagine an organization when they're encouraging their workforce to choose to operate in winner mode more of the time. Because look, we're all human. We're probably going to choose to operate in whiner mode every now and again, right? I don't think I've ever met anybody that has just consistently operated in winner mode 100% of the time.
I was in whiner mode this morning. Yeah.
There you go.
I had to get myself out of it. Yeah.
This is my own model, and I go into whiner mode all the time. So, but
totally.
Now that you kind of have this idea of the consequences of that choice, it becomes very difficult for people to continue to stay there. That's the big kind of aha, right? Because it's okay for us to go there from time to time, but we've got to acknowledge the fact that, it kind of feels like I'm in whiner mode here. I wonder what it's going to take for me to start looking at this problem or this issue differently so that I can get into a more productive mindset. And once I start making that switch, I've literally just taken myself from whiner mode to winner mode. When I'm starting to look for solutions to the end outcome, the end desired outcome, I've made the switch. I've gone to winner mode. And so we're helping organizations instill that mindset into their workforce, into their leadership, into their mid-manager group. And we want, and the great thing about it, Kristen, is when more people choose to operate in winner mode more of the time, guess what happens? You get better results. I mean, you get better desired outcomes. That's just the nature of what it looks like for you to instill cultures of ownership within organizations. And so it's been really cool to kind of see that winner mode, whiner mode language permeate within organizations, and people actually use it as a way for them to diagnose the choice that they're currently making and how they're overcoming or how they're addressing challenges and problems.
How do you help the leadership team understand and identify which mode they're in?
It's really interesting. All of my models and frameworks are very simple. Now, doesn't mean they're easy. You don't want to confuse simplicity with ease, because there's a lot of examples that I can use around something that's simple but not easy, right? Everybody knows what it takes to be healthy, right? You eat well and you exercise. That's pretty simple. Doesn't mean that it's easy. So just the general simplistic nature of the contrast between and the development of when people see what winner mode looks like and what whiner mode looks like and how that line in between them is the choice, and how that choice is made by each individual person. Once I have the clear identification and development and training around that, it's a really simple kind of mindset shift. And oftentimes I'll get leaders that come back to me, months or even years later and say, hey, I still think about that winner mode, whiner mode mindset shift when I'm confronted with problems. And before I was exposed to that kind of understanding, I oftentimes would justify my ability to just go into whiner mode. It's all these problems that are going wrong. Sometimes they're not even my fault. It's all these people doing these things that aren't beneficial, and they're the ones that are the problem. And I thought I was actually being helpful for calling them out. And now I understand that, like, okay, I get this now. I've got to choose to be in a much more productive place where I can keep moving forward, keep progressing, finding solutions, being curious. And when I'm in that mode, things tend to be better than when I choose to just kind of go into this whiner mode where everything's the problem and I'm just going to sit back. And so it's just a really clear definition. And once they have that definition, then it's really hard for them to forget it, right?
Yeah. How are you keeping yourself in winner mode most of the time?
A really great way, this is a good tip for your listeners, a really great way to try to consistently be in winner mode is to ask yourself some form of the question, what else can I do here? So when I'm confronted with a problem or challenge or hurdle, and I ask myself some form of that question, whether it's how else can I look at this problem? Like, what's another perspective that is there somebody else's perspective that might be valuable for me to go get on this, right? And maybe I need some help from someone. Are there resources that I have available to me to solve this problem that maybe I haven't tapped into in the past? Those types of questions tend to keep us into a place of winner mode. It's when we stop asking those questions and letting the circumstance define or impede our progress forward that we are in dramatic jeopardy of dropping into a place of whiner mode. So having that question or some form of that question, what else can I do here, is a really powerful way to keep us on the right side of that fence.
That's awesome. What's next for you on your journey?
I'm like any small consulting firm. I'm just trying to grow the business and help as many organizations and teams and leaders that I can. I will be speaking at the Chief Learning Officer Symposium in Arizona in October, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
And so it's in Tucson at the University of Arizona. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I've got some client engagements coming up that I'm excited about going and helping them. And so it's just, and I'm doing some other things with some other strategic partners that I'm also excited about. One thing particularly in the AI space, which I think is a space that is just on the brink of explosion if it's not already exploding. And so a lot of really, really cool stuff that I've got going on that are making my days increasingly more busy. So
good. I love that. Let me know. Send me a link to the Tucson speech and I'll come see you.
Yeah.
And meet you in person.
Excellent.
That'd be
That would be great.
I'd love it.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. U of A is gorgeous. It's such a great campus.
Yeah, I've been there as well. It is. It'll be really, really nice. And October in Arizona is a heck of a lot better than August in Arizona.
Oh man, we are almost through summer. It's been pretty good actually this year. We've had a good monsoon season and a lot of clouds, so we're grateful for that.
Nice.
But
that's helpful.
Yeah. So Ryan, tell listeners if somebody's interested in working with you, talk about your clients that you work with and how can they get a hold of you.
Yeah, the great thing about being and focusing on the things that I do is that I've worked in all different types of industries. I mean, you've heard about some of the work that we did in the restaurant space, but all different types of industries, because the concepts are very universal, right? And workforce environment management, culture, leadership, manager development, ownership, those are all universal concepts. And so I've had clients in nonprofit organizations, I've had clients in major manufacturing organizations. And so it's really great to be able to learn about all the different industries and have an understanding. So You can go to my website. It's www.goldmmindset, like gold medal mindset, goldmmindset.com. You can reach me there. You can even shoot me an email. My email is what everybody's email is, right? It's just ryan@goldmmindset.com if you want to reach out to me. LinkedIn, obviously, is where you and I met. That's a great place for, it seems like a lot of business interactions happen in LinkedIn nowadays. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. You just search for me, Ryan Millar, and I'll pop up. So would love to connect with you.
Love it. Ryan, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom, and congratulations on all your success. I'm super excited that we were able to connect and just can't wait to follow your journey. So really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for the invite. It was wonderful to talk to you.
You bet. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us this week. Please share the show with anyone you know in the hospitality industry that could benefit, and we will talk to you next week.